In this fairly quick tutorial, I'm going to demonstrate how to easily manipulate properties in Blender using sound. The obvious application of that is to create some kind of sound visualization. I've done a very quick one here. I did a previous video which used a number of different techniques, which demonstrated a number of different applications for this technique, but you can apply it to anything that you can keyframe. So this particular animation, I'm just going to open a new window and set that to the video sequencer and just silence the music for a moment, and you can see the sound being visualized there. And if we just look at this without rendering it, I'm using Eevee, you can see what's going on. And I've done a couple of little things here which I will demonstrate how to do, but you can see we've got a peak starting in the middle, and then that starts to go down, and then a peak appears on either side. And if I go on a couple more frames, you can see that then moves out to the outside. So you can see here, I'm doing more than just visualizing the sound, I'm also creating a time domain effect as well. And I'll also show you how I did what sort of looks like oscilloscope lines a little bit. It's not completely like that, but very quick and easy to do. So we'll start a new Blender screen, and to begin with, I'm going to open another window. So I'm going to come up to here, and I'm just going to pull this down so I get another window here, and I'm going to set that to the video sequencer, because it's obviously useful to actually hear the sound that I'm working with. Then I'm going to open a folder up where I've got some music, and I'm just going to drag that into the video sequencer window, and you can see it appears down there. And if I put my cursor towards the end, I can actually see roughly how many frames it is, and it's about 2300. So I'll set my end frame to 2300. If I press play now, we'll hear the sound. Having selected the sound, I'm going to press H, and that will basically mute it. You think it would be M, but it's actually H to hide it. You don't have to do this, but obviously it's useful to be able to see how the effects are relating to the music. So the next thing I'm going to do is create a plane. I'm going to go into edit mode, and I'm going to subdivide it a few times. So we'll say 5 times, 6 times. So I'm holding Alt and Shift down. I'm now going to select those end vertices, press plus. I should have done an odd number of divisions, but I'll delete those, and I'm going to delete those as well. You can create your line of vertices however you want, or do something else entirely, because this will apply, as I said, anything that you can keyframe. So I've got a line of vertices there. I'm going to select the middle one, and I'm going to press O to turn on proportional editing up here. And just for fun, I'm going to change this to random, and then I'm going to come out of edit mode, go to object data properties, and make sure you can see shape keys, and click plus, and you'll get basis appeared. Then click plus again, and we'll get key 1. Then go into edit mode with that vertex in the middle selected. I'm going to subdivide it once more, just so that I can get a central vertex, and then G, Z, and just have it drop off towards the end vertices, and just lift it up like that with key 1 selected. So I come out of edit mode now. If I scroll that value for key 1 up, you can see it brings that back. And I'm now going to duplicate that. So Shift D, G, Y, 0.2, and then I'll select those two, Shift D, G, Y, 0.4, and I'll do it once more with just those two, Shift D, G, Y, 0.4. So you can do as many as you want, but you are going to have to do an individual action for each of these. I'm just going to turn off floor, and then we can see things a bit better. So I've got 6 individually keyframed lines here, but each of them says key 1 as their key. So move to the second line and just change the name of key 1 to key 2, and so on. Again, I remind you, you don't have to do this bit if you don't want to. If all you want to do is make something change in accordance with sound, that's coming up. But I thought I would show you how to do this because I think it's quite a good effect. So this is the 5th line, so key 5 on that one, and the 6th line, key 6. So you can see each of them have got a unique key. Now I'm going to select them all and press Ctrl J. Because I've got individual key numbers preserved, if you don't rename the key numbers, they'll all have key 1 and they'll all move together. Because they've got their unique ones, we can now adjust the shapes independently. So at this point, you may encounter it's either a bug or an undisclosed feature of Blender at the moment, which is sometimes, I haven't had it do it every time, when you have all these keys, they'll actually all affect all of the lines. So they shouldn't do that. So that should just be affecting the first line. And you can see if I change the second key, that affects all of them as well. There is a way to overcome it. It's a bit of a pain, But the way we can do it is if we select first line, we'll add a vertex group, call that L1 and assign to there. And then we'll come to the next line, add a new vertex group, assign that, call that L2 and so on. And we'll just check that we've correctly assigned each line. So if we select number 6, it's fine, 5, 4, 3, 2 and 1. And then what we need to do is come down to our shape keys and then for each of the keys just allocate that vertex group. It's a bit of a pain. You may not need to do this. I didn't need to do it the first couple of times I tried it, and then I tried it again this morning and suddenly I did, and I don't believe I've updated anything. So there's something to do with the way that I've created this that will cause these keyframes to copy. Again, this doesn't have any direct relationship to creating the sound visualization. It's just if you want to do the little effect that I'm going to do, you'll need to do something like this. So now if I go up to key 1 and turn that value up, you can see that affects the first line. If I go to key 4, that'll affect the fourth line, and key 6, the last line. So what I'll now do is select pairs of lines, press F3 and just say bridge and just start typing bridge, and where it says bridge edge loops I'll select that and that will give us our mesh. And you can see Control E will do the same. And I'll just put a subdivision surface on there. So now if I select say one of the middle keys, you can see that's doing that. And if I select key 1, that does that. I'll now just add a mirror modifier. I'll set that to Y and I'll put it above the subdivision surface. So when I get key 1 raising up, it will give us a rounded shape, and I'll set that to shade smooth. So we're finally ready to start doing the sound visualization itself now. So I'll pull down another window and we'll bring up the graph editor. Make sure you're on the first frame, though I don't think it matters too much. While key 1 is selected, I'm going to hover my mouse over the value and just press I. I'm just essentially recording a keyframe at the start of the animation for each of the keys, and that then allows us to do some things with it. So I'm just zooming in on the timeline down here. I've zoomed in quite a way. So we'll now open up this little panel here, and you can see there are all our keys now. They're all there because we keyframed each of them. So I'll select the first one and then go up to key, and under here say bake sound to F curve, and you need to find your sound. So this is the music I'm using for this demonstration, and you can see there it is, and you can see it starts right on frame 1. So if I just Alt H to unmute that sound, and then so you can see there's the music, and there it is causing that keyframe to trigger. So now we need it to reflect into the others. But what I wanted to do is to have it sort of start in the middle and flow out. So now I'm going to select the second key, but from experience I found about 3 or 4 frames is enough. So I'm going up to frame 3 and then again bake sound to F curve, selecting the same music. And if we zoom in, you can see I select both key 1 and 2. They're both playing the same sound, but there's a delay of 3 frames. Won't show up that much yet, but you can just about see that they're not completely synchronized, that there's a slight delay. And you'll have to find out for you what level of delay is needed to get you a useful effect. So I'll just go and do the others. Moving on now to frame 6. I'm just adding 3 to the frames each time, and key, bake sound to F curves, and put the sound in there. So that's been done now, and you can see the lumps and bumps sort of ripple out from the middle. Now, if you wanted something that showed more frequency domain, unfortunately Blender doesn't have any tools inbuilt yet to do that. So if you wanted a sort of chart that showed the bass sounds in one area and the high frequency sounds in another, or you wanted different objects to respond to different frequencies of sound, as in a sound to light, what you need to do is use something like Audacity and run it through a filter with, for example, a low pass filter on it. So if you put a low pass filter on at say 300 Hertz, it'll produce an audio file that is the low frequencies, and then you produce another version of the file from about 300 to say 1000 Hertz, and maybe another one from 1000 to 5000 Hertz. So you'll then have 3 versions of the music filtered to give you peaks that relate to a particular range of frequencies. And you can do that in something like Audacity. Once you've done that, you will then use those particular versions of the file to be baked under here when you say bake sound to F curves. Rather than the same file every time, you'll use the different ones depending on what you're trying to create. So for our effect, we've done that. What I'll now show you how to do is just how I created that sort of oscilloscope-ish sort of effect. So I'll call up the shader editor, come down to here, and we'll just say a new material. I'll go to the Eevee engine and we'll just set the background to black. So we've got our basic principled shader. I'll set the emission up and just set it to quite bright green. And then I'm going to add an input, which is layer weight, and another converter, which is a color ramp. I'll put the Fresnel into the input of the color ramp and the output of the color ramp into the emission strength. So you'll need to play around with the values to find out what works for you. So maybe even something like that, 0.025 in my case, and let's see what that looks like. And because it's Eevee, we can see it in real time. So I hope you enjoyed that tutorial. I will share the files with my Patreon subscribers. Don't forget to click like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next tutorial. Thanks a lot.